Hello and welcome everyone to Virtual Preview. This is a continual series in which students who've been admitted to Purdue have an opportunity to look at all aspects of Purdue. Today we're looking at exploratory studies as a pathway to engineering, and we have both staff as well as students who have a great deal of information to share today that I think you'll find quite beneficial. Um, There we go. I like for everyone to rename themselves. If you right click on your name where those three dots are, I'd like for you to rename yourself so it'll make us easy to communicate with one another. So if you're a student, put S hyphen last name, first name, and then I've given you an example. And if you are a parent, put P, last name, first name. Um, let's, yeah, I think moving right along. This is our agenda today. We of course want to be respectful of one another. We are videotaping this session. We'd like for you to know in case a person's uncomfortable with that, they could excuse themselves. But we just want to be very respectful to one another so that only one person is talking at a time. I'd like to introduce, first of all, to you guys, our guests. Uh, we have um, we have, first of all, Kyle Paquin, who's the Senior Recruiting Manager of Exploratory Studies, and also the Director of, Ex, of Exploratory Studies, Linda Gregory. I don't know if I've given you the correct title. I think her correct title is Director. But everyone say hello to Linda.
Quite all right. I'm an advisor as well, so I'll take it.
Right, right. And Kyle's going to talk to us, first of all, about the process of exploratory studies. But before we do that, we want to introduce you to our students who are in the experience now of going through the process of exploratory studies, or they've successfully gone from exploratory studies into the engineering discipline of their choice. So we're going to start off with Kendall. If you would introduce yourself to the group.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Kendall. I'm from New York City, and I'm currently a senior studying electrical engineering with a concentration in power and energy systems. When I was applying to colleges, I knew that I wanted to study electrical engineering, but since I decided to start Purdue in the spring semester, I wasn't able to join FYE, so I joined Exploratory Studies. And honestly, that was the best option for me because I was able to learn about different majors at Purdue and different minors that I was interested in. And I was also able to learn about different career paths that I could take as an electrical engineer or any other engineer that I decided to be. And then I also decided to come to Purdue because of its high national ranking for its electrical engineering undergraduate program. So a little bit about my experiences. I've had 3 internships while I've been here at Purdue. So for the summer after my freshman year, I interned with the fire department headquarters in New York as a technology intern. Then the summer after that, in 2019, I interned with a company called WSP as an electrical engineering intern. And then for my most recent internship, I was with Cummins down in Indiana as a product engineering intern. And for my future plans and career goals, I plan on becoming an electrical design engineer after I graduate in December. And I'm also looking to get my professional engineering license.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, Kendall. Gilbert?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, hello, I'm Gilbert Benitez. I was born in Gainesville, Georgia, but I moved to Indianapolis, Indiana when I was about 8. My slide switched vacant.
Oh, let me go back. Thank you for noticing. Look at
Yeah.
it. It's got a mind of its own.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so I did apply originally for engineering, but I had to go with my second choice, which was exploratory. But my the reason for me choosing civil was just I want to focus a lot like on structures, and I'm also interested right now in something that Elon Musk is working on, which is building these underground tunnels that will hopefully make a path for us to have vehicles avoid traffic, like in very congested areas like New York or Los Angeles, for example. Also, civil is like nationally ranked number 3, and I think right now it's tied with MIT, which I think that's a pretty good company to have. My professional experiences has been LSAMP research with Dr. Stawali. We focused on something that I'm not fully like educated with, but I thought it was pretty fascinating. And it was with sows. What sows are they're like the mama pig. So what they experience during lactation periods is heat exhaustion. So they get very, very hot while they're lactating and giving their little pigs milk. But the little pigs want to stay warm while the mama pig wants to stay cold. So Dr. Sawali has worked with him and his colleagues to build these pads that will help cool the mom while keeping the baby pigs safe. My career goal is to, in the future, hopefully, obviously get my bachelor's in civil, which I will, but also something to think about in like a year or two is to get an internship at McDonald.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Kiera Edwards.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kira Edwards, and I'm from Bowie, Maryland in the Washington, D.C. area, and I'm currently in first year engineering. So why Purdue for me? First, initially, I started looking at Purdue because of the engineering program and because of how like known it was and nationally ranked it was. But I got offered a place into exploratory studies. And so when I was looking more at exploratory studies, I was drawn to it because of the ambassadors and the advisors I was able to talk to. I saw the support they could offer their students and how much the students that were ambassadors or in the program were able to get into the desired majors they wanted to go through learning about all the different options Purdue had to offer. And also the minority engineering program was a big factor in me coming to Purdue. A lot of the schools that different schools I looked at, I didn't see a similar program. And I knew the minority engineering program was able to support minorities, specifically engineering, to offer a lot of tools and resources to help them throughout their 4 years in college. And the last thing that really drew me to Purdue was the atmosphere of the students. I saw how hardworking the students were and how they had a drive to learn. And I knew that would affect the way I was motivated and want me to work hard as well when I came to Purdue. And my current career goal is to get a bachelor's in industrial engineering with a concentration in human factors engineering.
Great. Josh Fitch.
Yeah, hi everybody. So my name's Josh. I'm from Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area, from the East Coast. I'm a senior here, majoring in aeronautical and astronautical engineering. So why Purdue, why exploratory studies, and why aerospace? Purdue is just all around a great university to go to. It was kind of being from the East Coast and nobody really knowing what Purdue was. I just fell in love with it, and it was kind of my number one choice. I knew I wanted to go into the space industry, but I didn't really know how best to do that. Aerospace engineering seemed obvious, but I wanted to really explore my opportunities, and exploratory studies was the perfect way to do that. So I came here and experimented with engineering, with computer science, planetary science, physics, all the different options, and decided that aerospace engineering was kind of the right path for me. Purdue is a great school for aerospace engineering. We're considered the cradle of astronauts. You know, Neil Armstrong went here. That's like the biggest flex that we have. And we're really, really well connected with the aerospace industry in general. As far as my experiences, I've been really fortunate, and Purdue has really helped me out with a lot of these, but I've been able to intern at NASA twice at 2 different of their centers and doing a variety of software engineering and systems engineering for various spacecraft missions. Sierra Nevada Corporation, kind of designing interplanetary trajectories, and next summer I'll actually be out at SpaceX helping to develop out kind of the crew operations and how astronauts can operate these spacecraft and go to the moon and even beyond. In terms of my career goals, I want to either stay at Purdue and finish out my PhD or go to some other university and get kind of a concentration in space systems and figure out how you really put together these really complex space missions exploring other bodies in the solar system. So yeah, I've really loved my time at Purdue, and it's given me a lot of great opportunities.
Wow, that's great. Last but not least, Myra.
Hi, my name is Myra. I'm from East Chicago, Indiana. I'm majoring in CEM. I'm graduating this May. So I initially did not get into FYE when I applied, when I was in high school. And I thought that there was really no option for me to come to Purdue and study engineering at that point, but the minority engineering program reached out to me um, to share that there was exploratory studies and that there was a way for me to still come to Purdue, CODO, or like transition into a construction engineering, which was what I really initially wanted. But I could still come here and that it was realistic for me to still be able to graduate in 4 years, which was something that was like really important to me. So why did I choose construction engineering? So we have a really cool program here at Purdue. We're one of the few universities across the country who offer an undergraduate level construction engineering degree that's accredited by ABAT, where we follow like the civil engineering curriculum, which they're like they mentioned, we're ranked 3rd in civil engineering. So we follow them, and then as well as that, our technical electives and some of our other required courses follow like just very like management, so we can learn more about like being leaders and going on into industry. So kind of like some of my background and my experiences while I've been at Purdue, I've been able to do 2 internships out on the field with the Walsh Group. I was doing vertical construction. One of them, I was actually here on Purdue's campus, finishing out the biomedical engineering building expansion. I was on co-op last spring with Burns and McDonald's. They're an engineering company, which was very different for me, really pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I was focused on project management and design build projects. And then this past summer, I was with Bechtel doing project controls. And kind of like my career goals, my first step kind of being the project engineer out on the field. I do want to like go through the project management route. And then I really just want to go all the way. I definitely see myself going through like into executive positions, and hopefully one day I either own my own company or I can go and be CEO of like a very well-known construction company.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, students. I think we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. We're going to start off with the process, the overall view of understanding what what exploratory studies is, and no one better than Kyle Paquin is coming to us at this time, and he's going to enlighten.
Awesome. I'm going to share my screen as well.
Amazing.
All right. Let's see here.
Great.
Share this slide. All right. Hopefully you can see this presentation okay.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, we're going to talk about pathways to engineering, exploratory studies being one. Thank you for introducing me. My name is Kyle Paquin, Senior Recruitment Manager, accompanied by Linda Gregory, the Executive Director. So when considering what exploratory studies is, it's important that we break down, right, like why a student might join our program. And let me emphasize that we are a program, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but we're a gateway to Purdue for beginning students. So we are a front door into this institution where students can look at majors, look at careers, and really take a very proactive approach to their college career. Now I understand I'm in the wrong sharing mode, so let me make sure I'm in the right one. I'm not sharing this is the screen that you want to see. Okay, so we're a gateway to Purdue, that front door into the institution that you can be admitted into. We offer these students the opportunity to explore majors and careers and still maintain that four-year graduation rate. But ultimately, what you'll find through this conversation we're going to have is that I think we're a really great place for students to start, no matter where they come in on that spectrum of undecidedness, whether you're 100% sure you want to be an engineer or 1% sure you want to be an engineer and you're looking at other majors. I think we offer a really great place. As I mentioned, we're a gateway. So when the Office of Admissions is looking at an exploratory studies student, they're typically looking at someone who finishes in the upper third of their high school class. Point being, we admit academically qualified students just like any other college here at Purdue. The difference between the exploratory studies program and a college is that you cannot graduate undecided. So we are a non-degree granting program where students can enter, but of course cannot graduate. And we want them to stay in our program until they're confident in their decision. That tends to work out to be around 2 to 3 semesters. There are some students, some of which who you'll meet or you've met, who are only in exploratory for 1 semester, but you cannot stay in exploratory studies for more than 4 semesters. So you have until the end of your sophomore year to get to where you want to go. And I think that 4 semesters proves to be just the right amount of time for those students. One thing that we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail is the way in which we encourage our students to be proactive. But we know that informed students make better decisions. So we want students to feel confident in their decision and that they have all the information that's relevant to them when deciding a major. And so here's what we know. Statistically speaking, around 50% of Purdue students who start in a major change at least once, right? So that's about half of the Purdue population. But of students who've gone through exploratory studies and graduate, we know that only 14% of them will change their major. So 86% of our students who begin in exploratory studies and graduate do so in their first choice of major. That indicates to me and to Linda and to all the students who come through our program that I think we've got a really great thing on our hands here, right? Making sure that students have the information so that when they make a decision, they're confident in it. And then our students are actively seeking information on career paths, ways into majors, research opportunities, etc. And what we know about our students is that they graduate at a similar rate to students who declare a major and stick with it, and they're graduating at a better rate than the students who start in a major and then switch. One of the more attractive options about starting in exploratory studies is that you get the opportunity to take EDPS 105. Now, EDPS stands for Educational Psychology. That's the department in which our class is housed under. But this is an academic and career planning course. This is a class, I like to think of it like a Venn diagram, where you're going to learn more about yourself, learn more about majors, and learn more about careers. And where those 3 bubbles of a Venn diagram intersect is truly what this class is about. So students will do activities and assignments and some projects where, and again, this is that forced proactivity, where they are looking into plans of study, researching majors, looking into careers and doing career interviews, but also getting some more information about themselves and how their personality, their strengths, their interests, their values, how is their family influenced what majors and careers might be a good fit. Now, I've taught this class, Linda has taught this class, we could go on about this class forever, but I think it's really important to hear from our students who've been through EDPS 105 and share a little bit about how this experience in a classroom, right, with other undecided students proved to be beneficial later down the road. So I'd like to call on a few ambassadors to hear from them. Kiera, if you don't mind starting, what was one of your favorite things from EDPS 105 that you took away and took with you to engineering?
So exploratory studies helped me to learn a lot about myself and match that with a career major. I think one of my favorite activities from that class was getting to talk to an industry professional. So I was able to interview a professor that had done research in like the biomechanics um, industry, which was kind of the field I had thought I was initially interested in. But after talking to that professor, I kind of learned that that's a field I don't want to go into. And then I was able to figure out some different majors that I was less interested in. So that experience and that assignment helped me to get closer to figuring out what I didn't want to do, which ultimately led me to figure out what I did want to do. So the EDPS class not only helped to just establish what I fit best with me, but also what didn't fit best with me.
Awesome. Kendall, would you like to talk about your EDPS 105 experience?
Sure. My most memorable experience with EDPS 105 was doing the plan of study project, where I planned out my academic courses for the next 4 years that I would be at Purdue. And that project was most memorable for me because I honestly still use it to this day. Using the plan of study project, I was able to understand the degree requirements of electrical engineering. So it helped me understand the different concentrations that I can go into. And if I wanted to pursue a minor, if I wanted to double major, how I would be able to fit that within my plan of study so that I'm able to graduate in 4 years. So that was my favorite part of EDPS 105.
That tends to be a student's favorite, one of the students' favorite assignments. Gilbert, would you like to share a little bit about your EDPS 105 experience?
Sure. Yeah. With EDPS, I think a lot of people would benefit from that course, just having it in general, even if you're not exploratory, because a lot of us come in with an idea of what we think we're gonna do for our career, but it's kind of difficult to really put your finger on what your future self is gonna enjoy doing for every day. So whenever I was in that course, I felt like obviously you are learning more about yourself and you are seeing like potential careers that can fit with you, but it's also enjoyable seeing other people that you might like get to know within the class, also figuring out like, oh, like, yeah, I thought I was gonna do this, but now I'm leaning more to this side. And that tends to be the story. And for me, for the most part, I came in there and I knew what I wanted to do. And like I still have that mentality. But I know people that took that course and they completely switched their majors because they did those interviews with people in the career they wanted, or they started figuring out more and more about what they would do on a daily basis. And then they saw like, whoa, like this isn't for me. And I think that saves people years of their life in one course just by getting that interview with somebody, or just doing more research on your own time. I think that's a huge benefit from EDPS, and it was for me as well.
Thank you, Gilbert. Yeah, our ambassadors often share a very similar sentiment to what Gilbert said, right? Being surrounded by other students who are all in this boat of trying to figure out majors and careers, you can learn a lot from one another. So I appreciated that you brought that up. This is a course that I think if you are interested in engineering and you're seriously pursuing exploratory studies as a pathway into engineering, where you can use this course to explore the different disciplines of engineering and start to weigh out, as Kendall mentioned, the different planes of study, to look into planes of study for electrical engineering versus computer, and start to compare and contrast how those majors share things in common, but also differ wildly too. So this is a course where, you know, we hear freshmen say all freshmen should take it, but of course only our exploratory studies students get the opportunity to take this class. But that being said, you know, I don't want to belabor on about it forever. This would be a requirement of being in the exploratory studies program. And ultimately, whether it's a requirement or not, you are going to earn Purdue core curriculum credit for information literacy. So no matter if you end up in civil engineering or construction engineering management or aero, this class is going to count for all of those degree plans. Moving on, I'd like to talk about the academic advising and exploratory studies a little bit. Linda mentioned she also advises. One of the cool things about starting an exploratory is that we have one of the lowest student to advisor ratios on campus. So for every advisor in exploratory studies, they have a maximum of 150 students. That is by design. So we need more time to talk with our students as they are considering multiple different majors or in different colleges. We would like to have more time to work with our students, and so we keep that 1 to 150 ratio. As the Exploratory Studies program has grown, so has our staff, right, to make sure that we're accommodating that 1 to 150 ratio. But when our academic advisors work with their students, they really want to get to know the student. They want to know about what they like, what they dislike, what interests that they have, what their hobbies are, right? We really want to build a solid foundation as far as a relationship between advisee and advisor to make sure that as the advisor is working with the students, they're recommending appropriate coursework or are pointing students in the direction of majors that they may be interested in. So as our advisors are working with their students, they're also getting to know the other colleges and those plans of studies really well. And that ultimately leads me to my third bullet point. We want to leave the doors open for areas of interest. So if you come in with multiple different disciplines of engineering, maybe you're also looking at engineering technology in the Purdue Polytechnic Institute, our exploratory advisor is going to make sure that you are in the correct math class to keep both those options open. So we would make sure that you are in the correct level of calculus to explore engineering, right? They take a specific level of calculus, whereas the Polytechnic takes a different calculus, but the engineering calculus will apply to the lower level of calculus. And ultimately, that's how our students end up graduating within 4 years, because their academic advisors are strategically picking out courses that will leave those doors open. Of course, each student who starts in exploratory studies, no matter what their interests are in, are going to have a very unique schedule. They all take EDPS 105, a requirement of our program, but they all are going to have a very different schedule when thinking about the courses that we enroll them in, but making sure that they do apply to transition into engineering. That being said, let's hear from some students. Myra, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your experience working with the exploratory academic advisors.
Yeah, so Linda was actually my academic advisor when I was in exploratory studies. And it really she really kind of went out of her way to make sure that I came in knowing that I wanted to do engineering. I already kind of had an idea I wanted to do civil. I still didn't know construction engineering was a thing at Purdue. So I came in wanting to do civil, and she really was able to kind of help me, guide me in the right direction of what classes I needed to take, making sure that my schedule looked fine. I was working alongside her pretty closely. I had like a scenario where I had taken a lot of like FYE classes in my high school that had transferred over in dual credits. So it was a challenge of like, how can I continue to take higher level, like continue, like not get behind, but, take relevant courses. And she was able to kind of guide me in the right direction, point me like in the right path of like who I should ask for overrides when I needed them. And ultimately, like, it really, I think having that advisor who really is trying to, like, how you said, like strategically build your schedule is keeping me on track. I was able to, I was off a semester. I was gone for the spring. I didn't take any classes. So I'm still able to graduate on time. So working like from day one, not knowing what classes I needed to take and which ones will count for different things, like 2 or 3 requirements were met by one class, kind of helped me like not get behind.
Well, kudos to Myra and kudos to Linda. Josh, would you like to talk a little bit about your experience working with our advisors?
Yeah, my advisor was fantastic. She was one of the reasons that I decided to come to Purdue in the first place. So, I talked a little bit about how the space industry was what I wanted to do, but like Myra said, I didn't, you don't really know about the exploratory studies option until you kind of look into it and somebody at Purdue tells you about it and explains what it is. And she was that person for me and helped kind of guide me to realizing that I could still come to Purdue and have the flexibility to explore these different paths. And then once I got here, she was fantastic as an advisor. I went and visited her way more than I needed to kind of get her advice and ask for her help and make sure that I was taking the right courses and doing the right things and utilizing my resources and blah, 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 all those things. I'm still in touch with her today. I'm a senior. She hasn't been my advisor for like 7 semesters, like 3 years at this point. And we still email, and we're going to catch up and get coffee once COVID is kind of passed. And she's written me recommendation letters and gotten me in touch with professors. And she's been just an awesome mentor and connection to have since being at Purdue. So only positive things to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Josh. Yeah, we could talk about our advisors forever, but we won't do that either. Let's talk about leaving exploratory studies. And this brings me to arguably one of the most important slides of the night, CODO. That stands for Change of Degree Objective. This is an acronym at Purdue, but this is the official process. I think you heard one of the ambassadors share about this earlier. They CODO'd. Now, the CODO process is not a secret. That's the best news. You can see these CODO requirements at any time. If you were to Google Purdue CODO, it would pull up the CODO webpage for all of the majors and colleges here at Purdue. And the specific requirements. The thing to keep in mind, especially as you're looking at engineering disciplines, is that good grades are going to open doors, right? The better your grades are, the higher your GPA, the more likely it would be to be able to CODO into engineering, specifically into some of those more space available majors. Again, you can Google this information. This is not a secret Purdue hidden treasure on our campus. It's on our webpage, so you can look at all the requirements. And what you'll find is that there are multiple CODO options into engineering. Some of them are direct. So you heard an ambassador say, I went from exploratory studies to electrical, or as Kira mentioned, she went from exploratory to first year. There are multiple options to go into some disciplines, but if you're looking at biomedical, mechanical, multidisciplinary, or interdisciplinary, you must go through FYE. So we'll talk about CODO and how you get those good grades in a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that I stressed there is a process for this. You can't just change your major, at the drop of a hat. You need to meet certain requirements. And in some cases, those requirements also include there being space in the program. That being said, there's my contact information. We can follow up with this later, my email, my phone number, and then a web page where you can book an appointment with me. So I'm happy to answer some questions after this presentation's over. That being said, I'll throw it back to Mr. Williams.
Thank you so much for your very informative presentation. We'd like for Kyle and Linda to stay on, because there's so much valuable information to share. And we really would like this to be more of a conversation, just a conversation between new friends. So we're going to, I'm going to start off. Kyle just brought up this whole notion of CODO, which stands for Change of Degree Objective. And we'd like to hear from the students about this their CODO experience. And in all cases, we're here to get advice from students who are either in the process or who have successfully completed the process. So, and we'll do round robin for those of you who care to speak. What would you like for our audience to know about this CODO process?
I can go really quickly. So I would say, I think the biggest advantage you can have is in like the CODO process would be, if you think you want to go into a major, put yourself out there, go, reach out to someone from that major, ask, to meet with one of their advisors. There's a lot of value from that. And I think embracing of like, you will never get what you don't ask for, or so there were, like my second semester freshman year, I came to like kind of like a wall where I was still in exploratory studies, but I had already kind of completed most of my FYE courses. But, so what would I take now? And it ended up happening where I reached out to the construction engineering program, and they were able to say, like, to verify that I had, enough classes that qualified, that I was able to take some of the sophomore level construction engineering classes before I was even in construction engineering. So it kind of just like, you don't get what you don't ask for. Really put yourself out there and kind of make it known that you're interested in the program. It really goes a long way.
Great. Great. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll hop in next and just say, like, one of the biggest things that I think exploratory studies has taught all of us, all the ambassadors here, I think one of the biggest takeaways for us is exploratory studies does not hold your hand through anything. What they do is teach you how to help yourself and how to go find the resources, where the information is, where you can go do the research, where you can get the resources. And that's like a huge aspect of what exploratory studies teaches you. And so along that same line, right, your advisors will point you directly to where all of these requirements are. They'll be spelled out for you, like this specific GPA benchmark for these specific classes on this specific timeline. You have to fill out this specific form. It's very well documented, very well outlined. And one of the things that will really kind of be pounded into you through exploratory studies is, you know, go out and take initiative. Find, like Myra said, go out and find the thing you want to do. Talk to your exploratory advisor, talk to other advisors. And the resources are all there. One of the things that Purdue does really well, they put everything there that you need. It's about going out, utilizing those resources, and just making sure that you follow the instructions, get the grades, fill out the paperwork, and you'll be golden. So
Anyone else before we move on?
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. For the Kodo, I just want to say, like said before, like someone said before, everyone's path is different. Some people are like one semester, one and done, and they go straight into FYE, or they go straight into their program. Other people, they may take a little longer, or they might even will stay until the full amount of time that exploratory will allow them to stay, which is 4 semesters, and which is my case and that's why I'm speaking about this, because I feel like the Kodo process for a lot of exploratory students is like a extra weight on your shoulders, like a chip on your shoulder, where you're like, I wasn't good enough in the eyes of Purdue initially. I'm still trying to prove them wrong. And I'm battling the stress of trying to get into the program, to get into the career I want and meet all the requirements. So it's like a mixture of emotions, stress, and just trying to improve yourself and do the best you possibly can. So to anybody who does come to exploratory, I just want to say that even if it takes you the whole like the 4 semesters, I think the payoff will be worth it. Even now, I just got recently conditionally accepted into civil engineering, which means that as long as I perform well in the courses I'm in right now, by the start of next semester, next fall, I will be a civil engineer. And that's something I haven't even told my parents yet, but I'm sure once I do tell them, and once I have that chip off my shoulders, it will all just come full circle and feel really worth it. So, and I think that's something that, while it is stressful in the beginning with the Kodo and everything, it's pretty beautiful. And I'm hoping next semester I can like reap the benefits and really enjoy it.
Great. That's so funny you would use that terminology, because my next question has to do with the benefit. For you personally, how has this program benefited you, and in what ways?
Well, for me, I'll do it real quick so more people can go. But for me, it's just like a mental aspect. I feel like I said, not getting accepted initially is like, it's like a slap in your face. It's like what did I do wrong? How did I not like impress you academically? But at the same time, it's competitive here. Like you have to recognize that people next to you are doing the same thing, trying to do the same thing, studying wise, field wise. So you just have to get to their level, or do what you were doing before and just show that your skill sets just weren't recognized. So I would just say the benefit for me is just making my mentality like putting me in the mindset like I belong. I'm competitive, like I'm here for a reason. And I feel like that's what's allowed me to continue and push forward and want to still pursue civil engineering and not like quit because of like, just not performing well in a class or failing this or failing that or having to retake something. I feel like my mentality has just improved and allowed me to push forward.
Great, great.
I'll answer. For me, I think exploratory studies has benefited me by helping me to solidify what I wanted to do. So coming in, I knew I wanted to go into engineering, but I didn't know what type of engineering, and I had never really looked outside of engineering. So exploratory studies gave me the chance to like look at all the different majors and to make sure that engineering was what I wanted to do, and to be able to see that if it aligned with me and my personality and my values, helped me to be more confident knowing that I was in the right field. What I was doing was right for me and fit me and my goals. So exploratory studies helped me to just be able to see all the options and also helped me to see different paths to get to the same place. So I kind of knew the career I wanted to do, but the major wise, I didn't know how to line up the majors with that. And through exploratory studies, I was able to see different paths, different options to get to the same end goal.
Great. Great. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of Kira and just add that, like, for me, I kind of knew that I wanted to go into the space industry, and in high school, a lot of the people were just saying, "Oh, well, then do aerospace engineering," right? Like obvious, that's an obvious lineup. And initially, that's what I was going to do. But one of the things that I kind of have realized is, as a high schooler and even as a freshman, once I had gotten into FYE, and even as a sophomore, once I had gotten into aerospace, it you you realize that a lot of this is just following a path that seems obvious. So, space industry, aerospace engineering, perfect, matches up. I had no idea what an aerospace engineer did on a day-to-day basis. And I think that is like a huge thing that exploratory studies really helps you figure out, is beyond just saying, well, this seems like a career that sounds cool and interesting. And at the high level, it seems cool and it seems like it matches me well. Like, really dig in and figure out, what am I actually going to be doing on a day-to-day basis? And is this something I'm going to enjoy? Because that's really what it comes down to, is those day-to-day tasks and the kind of environment you work in and the kind of people you work with. Like, those are really, really big, seemingly minor details that make huge differences. So being able to really identify and now understand, as a not even having graduated yet, what it means to be an aerospace engineer in the industry is like miles ahead of where I was. And I think it's really a lot attributed to exploratory studies. So really grateful for that learning experience.
Fantastic. Anyone else? We're talking about the process of change that happens in an individual, in a student. I've heard that in several of you. And Purdue is, of course, really good at taking students through a process that helps you grow. But I think it's even magnified through this wonderful program we call Exploratory Studies, where you have the opportunity where you get, it's not officially career counseling, but you reap a lot of benefits that are akin to career counseling. You get an opportunity to have that introspective look and really also go deeper to understand the career. So I'd like to ask you guys, in terms of the process of change or the process of growth that's taken place in you, how did this experience help you to grow as a person, as a student, and as a career professional?
Yeah, so I'll start this one off. I think uh, Gilbert really covered this one really well when he was talking about kind of the chip on your shoulder, for lack of a better word. But I think for a lot of people, college ends up being kind of a straight line, and it's like, all throughout high school you're getting drilled into the goal is to get to college, and then all throughout college you're getting drilled into the goal is to get into a career. And then it's like, it's just kind of, you're just following these kind of little footpath milestones that have been kind of set out for you, I think. And I think the exploratory studies route diverges from that in the sense that it forces you to create your own path, which I think is really an emotional and mental experience that a lot of people don't go through until they're out in the real world. And to kind of have to mold your own path starting as a 19-year-old, like it takes a lot of energy mentally and emotionally to do that. And I think that really shapes you into a stronger person who's able to really think for yourself and do things the way that you want to do them, and really get in touch with what you want more so than what you've been told you're supposed to do. And I think that was a really big change for me, is not just following the predetermined path, but kind of making my own path based on what felt right. So that's a big part of the change that I've experienced through exploratory.
Yes, someone else? How has this the process that exploratory studies took you through, help you grow as a person, as a student, as a career professional?
I can jump in really quick. I would
Mhm.
say, so within the EDPS class that we take our freshman year, we take like a bunch of like self-assessment tests to kind of get to know our strengths, our weaknesses. So I think that was really useful for me, especially when I was starting to look for internships and what career path I actually wanted to pursue. Kind of like I'm kind of like you kind of know how you are. You're coming out of high school, like this version of you, like this is like how I've been all along, but like discovering those like some of those strengths that maybe you didn't really like acknowledge, like when you see it you're like, okay, like I understand why I like got this as a strength. I just like didn't usually consider it.
Mhm.
So when I was going into internships, like an interview, being able to say like highlight some of those strengths really kind of like put me ahead of the game. Like recruiters were very impressed that I was able to talk about and acknowledge like my weaknesses. I think that's probably what they were most impressed about. That even as like a freshman, I was very aware, like being very self-aware, basically.
Great.
I'd like to add in as an advisor of lots of students over the years. One of the things that I really see with students that go through exploratory studies is I think it really builds their confidence, because so many students who come in, whether they're coming in totally undecided in what they want to do or just somewhat undecided. Maybe those of you that are on tonight know that you definitely want to do engineering, but you're hearing through some of our student panelists, that they didn't know what the day-to-day job looked like. They didn't really know, all the courses they were going to have to take and how many math classes they were going to need. And I think by going through exploratory studies and having that course, it really prepares you. And if we're being totally honest, the exercises, the homework activities, the discussions that you're going to have with your classmates, it really forces you to reach out and do this information. Because how many students on their own are going to sit down and just start Googling, what does an aerospace engineer do on a day-to-day basis? Or how much money can I make if I want to go back to New York City as an engineer? What is it going to take me to live there? Well, guess what? Those are some of the things. I mean, you're going to college. I think the majority of students you talk to, whether they're still in high school or college students, they're coming to college because they want a great career. They want to make more money and have a better job than they would have without a college degree. And they also want to learn. And so we're just sort of forcing you to learn and do this research to better prepare you. We hear a lot that our students that have been through exploratory studies, they talk about going back to their friends and saying, like, I'm a little mini advisor on my floor in my residence hall because everyone's coming to me for advice on things. And I think having gone through that process that other students at Purdue may not have been through, it just sort of instills that confidence because they're going through this.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? I'd like to ask this question because I think a number of students would like to know uh, uh, what courses are really critical and key for you to take and do well in. So, and I just like to get a student perspective on this, especially because some of you are going through this and some of you have made it through it. So let's hear, because I know folks in the audience want to know.
And are you curious about classes that you think are necessary to do well in engineering, or is that kind of the focus?
In order to make the transition into get into the engineering field or discipline of your choice, what are those key or critical courses that you must take and that you must do well in?
Yeah, so in terms of one of the traditional paths to get into the engineering field at Purdue is to codo into first year engineering, FYE. And for that, there's kind of some baseline categories of classes that you have to take. And these actually do a pretty good job at covering, I think, what Purdue expects of you. And those three categories are math, science, and then communications. And so each of those categories has a couple different options within them. Within the math category, it could be, depending on where you start, it could be Calc 1, Calc 2, even Calc 3. It kind of depends on how much credit you bring in. For science, it could be computer science, it could be chemistry, it could be physics. You'll take probably all of those courses if you're going to go into engineering at some point. So the order you take them is kind of just all that matters. And so those two categories are really, they make a lot of sense, right? Because at the end of the day, as much as math might be annoying sometimes, you do have to understand how it works and how it's applicable, and all of your future engineering classes will be built off of math. And so, and for me personally, at least, I much more enjoy math when it's applied to real problems and I can actually see how it's beneficial. But building that kind of domino effect, kind of like building up that framework and that baseline understanding is really important. So doing well in those classes, you know, computer science, physics, chemistry, those all make a lot of sense. The last category I think is actually really good that Purdue does this is communications. A lot of engineers in the real world kind of have trouble communicating their ideas because they're more of the left brain, I think it is, logical and kind of and process oriented, and that's how they think. And being able to step back from that and to have kind of a communication line to people that don't understand those concepts as well, it's really important being able to break down these concepts into understandable pieces and chunks. So that can be either through an English class or an oral communications and presenting class. It can also be counted through taking one of the engineering introduction courses. So engineering 131, which is kind of the baseline, learning how engineers approach and solve problems. So those are all options you can take. So those are kind of the three big categories, and you have options for each of them. And then the general process, this all ties back into codoing, where then when you want to go and codo into first year engineering, as an example, because that's kind of the classic, you have to get a good enough GPA between those three categories of classes to codo in. So that's kind of the core process you're going to want to understand when you come to Purdue. So
good. Would anyone like to add to that? That was very well said.
I was going to say, I can respond. There's a question in the chat. It
Ah,
says, so the way it works is if you're accepted to Purdue in exploratory studies, you just fill out the rest of your schedule with first year engineering prerequisites for required courses. Exactly. I mean, that's our whole goal. If I meet with a student and they're coming in for the first time and I know that they want engineering, we're going to, with the exception of taking our academic and career planning course that they have to take, everything else on that first schedule will be a science, a calculus, or whatever math they're qualified for, and that communications course or that first engineering course, whatever they're qualified for. On the other hand, if a student came in and said, I think I want to do engineering, but I might want to do something in business as well. Well, okay, we're still going to start with that high level of math because that'll cover them for engineering, and the business school or school of management, if they go there, will gladly take that higher level of math. We're still going to do a science because any of the Purdue colleges will take any of the sciences. With that communications course, that will work as well. But maybe they have room for another elective. And I might suggest, okay, let's throw in economics because you're going to need that for the School of Management. And that would be a good elective that fulfills another requirement as well. So that's our whole goal in advising, is to work individually with the students to keep their options open. So as you know, I always kind of like to use the funnel visual here. as students are figuring out which majors they really want to do and they're honing in on what they want to do, those courses are going to get more and more specific to the major they want. And our whole goal is not to make these decisions for the student, but just to guide them so that if this is your goal, this is what you need to do to get there.
Thank you.
If I didn't answer your question, by all means, speak up.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now we're winding down and we just have a few moments left. And these fine students signed up to be a part of this session. And so I'd like to give each of them, all 5 of you, an opportunity to, if there's something we haven't talked about, if it's advice, something you'd like to share with the audience, realizing that we have a lot of people because we post this on our YouTube channel. There will be a substantial number of people who come back and watch this later. So with that in mind, I'll start with Gilbert. Is there something you'd like to say, some advice, or comments you'd like to make before we close out tonight?
Um, I would say well, especially when you're in the coda process, like you're getting into exploratory and you're not even admitted yet. I would definitely advise to do as much as possible to really like focus on those classes and perform well in them, especially since your time is limited in exploratory. You don't really want to put off taking or like retaking a lot of classes when you're in exploratory because like I said, time is limited. You have to move forward. Like for me, for example, I'm taking Calc 2 right now and I'm in my 4th semester, but I'm taking it at Purdue Northwest online. So there's also different options. Like let's say you don't like how a certain class is taught. There's always an option to outsource it. And if another school is teaching it and Purdue is accepting the credit, that's always an option. You don't have to be ashamed of it. It sometimes makes your schedule a little more flexible or it just works for you better. Um, Also, like said before, like exploratory always offers you resources, and so does Purdue. Purdue has a lot of free tutoring going on. So does the MEP. MEP right now, they're holding free tutoring all on Zoom, and that really helps you. Like in a lot of classes, there's even classes that are higher level. There's people tutoring for mechanical engineering courses in the 2nd or 3rd year. So just use as much as you can, stay on top of it as much as you can, and not sure, just always ask questions. Even upperclassmen, you can ask them advice because they've all also walked through that path that you're going to or a similar path. So
Thank you so much, Kiera.
I think the advice I would give is kind of going off what I said earlier, but there's multiple ways to get to where you want to go. And coming into exploratory studies, you might initially be maybe discouraged that you didn't get into the original major you might have applied to, or you may not know what you really want to do. And I think learning those paths to find out what you want to do and learning your different options, I would advise taking the time to learn those different ways, to talk to different people in the fields you think you might be interested in, to find out what you don't want to do, what you do want to do, and to take the time to learn about yourself and how that applies to your major and the career that you want. So I would just say kind of figure out kind of the goal of where you're trying to get to and then find a path that's best for you. It doesn't need to be the same path other people are taking or what you think is a traditional path, but whatever fits you best and you think you can be most successful and do well in is a path you should follow.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Kendall.
Sure. So my advice for any student who's in exploratory would definitely be to use your resources. Not including the ones that Purdue is offering. Like you should use those resources, but also think about the resources that are around you, such as your peers or any upperclassmen. And a great way to meet those upperclassmen would honestly be through MEP. I've been involved with the minority engineering program since I've started at Purdue, and it's honestly the reason why I'm here and why I'm doing so well at Purdue. So definitely use those tutoring resources like Gilbert mentioned, because tutoring is free and we have tutoring for students in first year engineering, even up to some of your upper level courses, especially if you're in Aero, because we do have a ton of tutors for those courses as well. But also just talking to upperclassmen who either started in exploratory or who started in FYE to kind of figure out what should be the best classes for me, what type of gen ed should I take. For me personally, I took all of the FYE courses that were required, but for some of the requirements, like my communications requirements, I didn't take the traditional courses that people usually took, like Com 114. Through the resources from MEP, I was able to find another course that kind of tailored to my interest so that I can still fulfill those communication and writing requirements um, without having to take a course that didn't really suit me. So I would definitely say use your resources and definitely consider MEP to be one of your greatest resources while you're here at Purdue.
Thanks, Kendall. Okay, Mr. Fitch, Josh.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing I just like to say is, for all the students that are on here right now, like we've all been in your shoes, being in high school and being really stressed out and worried about the college process, and it's really a big and stressful time, and I'm sure you guys are kind of feeling the pressure from it and feeling a little bit overwhelmed about all the choices you have to make and the preparations and the work, and just take a deep breath. I think the best advice that I can give is it's going to be okay. I'm sure you guys have really good options in front of you and really good schools and majors and possibilities, and Purdue is an amazing school and we all love it, and I'm sure if you chose Purdue you'll love it too, and I'm sure if you chose another school you'll also love that. So just take a deep breath, do what feels right to you guys, and just it'll work out in the end. So your life path can be all sorts of ups and downs and curves and forks of the road, but it'll work out in the end. And just kind of remember to smell the roses, to not be too cliche, but take a deep breath and it'll work out in the end. So
Great. Thank you. Myra?
I would say it's really important to just be honest with yourself from the start. It would just help you avoid just like delaying your CODO process and graduating kind of like closer to your ideal time frame, whatever that may be. I know for me, my first semester in exploratory studies, when I came, I took Calculus 1, the engineering one. I can tell you, if I'm being truthful, I wasn't ready for it. I took it and I got a C minus. I barely passed. My GPA was hit hard. I was lucky that I had other courses to balance it out. But part of me like wishes that I would have just kind of like swallowed my ego, put my pride aside and say, let me just take a step back. I don't think I'm ready to be in that class. Because at the end of the day, it would like, looking back, it wouldn't have like delayed my graduation in any form, because for engineering, most classes, you end your maths like by junior year. So you have a little bit, like a semester or two worth of like, you can delay that math. So that's something, just be honest with yourself. And really, I would say, if you know that you want to go into engineering and you're in exploratory studies, I think it's very important to get an internship. When you come in, there's industrial roundtable that fall. So we're talking weeks that you're on campus, but be prepared, kind of have at least an idea of kind of like what your goals are, or like where you might want to go. Because when you're looking back at it, you see that once you have like an experience in the field, it doesn't matter what path you took to get once you get your degree. We've seen, there's another one of our peers within MEP who also started in exploratory, who he knew he wanted to do computer engineering, and he got an internship with Microsoft while he was in exploratory studies, his like first semester freshman year. So if you know that you want to do engineering, don't let being in exploratory studies stop you, because having that internship is going to like like no one's going to even ask you. What I used to put on my resume, I'd put like freshman year, I'd just put like exploratory studies pursuing construction engineering degree. And that's all that. No one asked. Everyone knew that I was going, like they assumed that I was going to be in construction engineering.
That's great. I'm just very happy that we've had an opportunity to convert such a great group of folks together. As you can see, audience, this is a wonderful program. We want to thank Kyle for coming today and talking to us. Linda, your great input, and then the voices of student experience, Gilbert and Kendall and Kiera, Myra, and let's see, I'm just make sure I'm not leaving any students out. We just want to say thank you for all your comments. Um, you need to know that there's a great deal of support here offered from this program as well as the minority engineering program. We offer a boot camp. Boot camp is 5 weeks, and this year it will be for credit, between 7 and 9 credits, and we're accepting 2 categories of students in first year engineering or those who happen to be in exploratory studies. We want to thank everyone for coming. Of course, we're going to be talking about all these things more, so we invite you to tune in. Of course, you can contact our office. I'm going to go ahead and put my email address and phone number into the chat. You can stay over and speak with one of us. But I do see that the associate director of minority engineering is here, and her name is Dr. Jacqueline Gatson, and I'm going to ask her to close us out tonight. Thanks everyone for coming. Be sure to stay if you have a question. Dr. G, as we call you, will ask you to dismiss us.
No problem. Hello, can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I have small children in the background, so I don't want them to to interrupt the conversation here. But thank you all. I want to my thanks to the student panelists and the representatives from Exploratory Studies. Just want you to know that there are multiple options. Uh-oh, am I?
You were going in and out.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. But I was saying it's such an important topic and such an important, and we want you all to know that there's so many options, and even those who think they have everything figured out, when they come to to still may change their minds or go a different path. So don't look at, these options as bad options, just look forward to a possibility of many opportunities. So thank you so much for being here. As those that have mentioned, please feel free to follow up, revisit our website for additional programs that we have planned throughout the rest of the semester. And we really hope to see you at Purdue. Flare up, have a great night, and we look forward to seeing you all again.
Thank you. Have a good night. Stay over if you've got questions or concerns. We'll be happy to help. Have a good night.